Before the success stories, the progress, there was you. You who made a choice to grow, to inspire, to overcome your own challenges. At NASM, we're in service of your limitless potential, because when you keep growing, we all get stronger, and we'll never stop making your journey our mission. Join the fitness leader. Become a fitness leader. Become a certified personal trainer.
You're listening to the Peak Physique Podcast with Andre Adams on the NASM Podcast Network.
Hey guys, welcome back to another exciting episode of the NASM Peak Physique Podcast. I'm your host, Andre Adams, NASM Master Trainer and IFBB Physique Olympian. And today I've got another special guest, longtime friend of mine. Really excited to bring him on the show for the very first time. We're going to be talking about some bodybuilding industry growth, some big events coming up. And you know what? Let's just go ahead and introduce him. Welcome to the show, Chris Minnis of Center Podium.
Hey, brother. Thanks for having me.
All right. How you doing today, Chris?
Doing all right. A little crazy here in Reno, but we're getting through it.
Yeah, I heard you guys had some different things going on. What's going on in Reno right now?
Well, unfortunately, right now we got a fire up on the mountain, and that's kept us pretty busy and distracted. But really, the big focus coming up is the Legion Sports Fest in about under 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And we just got a list of kind of a preview of all the athletes who've registered so far, and there's probably well over 150 pros already signed up for this event with 3 weeks to go. So we should see a pretty mega event out here.
Yeah, very successful show. And for you guys that are new to it, we're going to actually dive into Legion in a bit and talk about the different divisions competing. It's also a pro and amateur show. One of many shows that Center Podium puts on throughout the year. One of my personal favorites. So we'll talk about that one as we get deeper in. A few other things we're going to talk about today, Chris. We'll talk about how the bodybuilding community as a whole, like how has it evolved and really, impacted the fitness community. And then, how to be successful as an athlete, a fitness coach, and in our cases, an entrepreneur or a promoter. And how can you make really a sustainable career in fitness? Because I think a lot of people, we start as fitness enthusiasts, then we become athletes if we're competitive. But then a lot of people that's kind of it, right? They fizzle out after they're done competing and they're not sure what to do next. Mm-hmm. So you and I will definitely give some tips on our own journeys and experiences in that regard. Let's start by going back to the beginning, Chris. Let's go back about 10 years ago, I think, and tell our audience how you and I even connected in the first place, which I think the first time was at the time the Ferrigno Legacy.
Yeah, the inaugural Ferrigno Legacy in Santa Barbara in 2014.
Yeah,
ended up being this massive show back then, and nobody expected it to blow up the way it did. And yeah, what we have 4 pro divisions that year, and of course you were the winner of your division.
Yep.
And yeah, man, and that's how we kicked it off. And I love that you competed. Oh crap! Would you compete in Japan just a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
I love you when
the Tokyo Pro.
Yeah, you posted the side by side, and even though you got a little more gray in your beard now, the physique is just as good as ever.
Yeah, it was exciting, and I had to pull out the old Ferrigno pictures as kind of my reference point. Let's see how I look back. That was my first Olympia qualifier, and heck of a show, just unforgettable moments in that show. But yeah, it was fun to do the side by sides, all these years later.
Yeah.
And in fact, you pointed out something that I hadn't even thought about, but for you guys that are watching the YouTube version, you can see some of the Ferrigno Legacy and Legion Sports medals, right? There's the gold, the silver. I think I got some more back there. And then the original Ferrigno trophy.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. You guys at all of your productions, all of your shows, kind of next level in trophies and hardware is something that definitely helped you guys stand out. What's your mentality on that, just giving that value back to the athletes and giving them a little bit different experience with some really high-end trophies and hardware?
The way I looked at it was I constantly do this, and I think it's the bodybuilder mindset is how can we improve everything? When you're a bodybuilder, you look at yourself and we're never satisfied, right? And like, oh, my abs could be a little sharper, or my biceps could be a little bigger compared to my shoulders. And I think I take that mindset that I learned from being a competitive bodybuilder and applied it to everything we do at the shows. So, back when I started our first show, 2011, which was the Tahoe show, the Ferrigno was our second show. One of those details I looked at was the trophies. And trophies, even the generic trophies, are not cheap. And I looked at it as like, well, with the money we're spending here, if we add some creativity, we can really get something that's more special. And in those years, as we've developed all these very unique, customized trophies, and they've evolved to be better and better as time goes on and technology advances. It's for a lot of athletes, it becomes the focal point of their mantle. They've got all the generic trophies, and then right in the middle, that's your Ferrigno trophy or your Tahoe trophy. Or, this year we did a Dexter Jackson trophy that looked just like Dexter, with the signature. And so that's how we look at everything, is how can we make everything a little bit better or a lot bit better? And when you do that, from the trophies to the stage, to the lighting, to the way you enter, to the website, the whole experience is elevated.
Right. And I can personally attest to that, having done many shows with you guys over the years, definitely next level productions, and athletes get a heck of an experience. And I've got a funny story for you too, Chris. I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but this was actually on my flight home from that 2014 Ferrigno Legacy. I had all my goodies, and, you got all your food and your trophies and all this stuff. And I don't know what I was thinking, but it's one of the only times when I travel that for whatever reason, I was repacking everything, and I put my car keys and my house keys and everything in my checked bag instead of my carry-on. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that I had with me was like a small backpack and then the Ferrigno trophy, right? I'm not going to risk putting that in a checked bag.
Right.
So I get to Chicago and I'm waiting for my luggage. Nothing's there, right? The thing stops spinning. So I'm like, oh God, here we go. So I go and they have them tracked on my luggage. Well, I was coming from Santa Barbara. They sent my luggage to Phoenix. Mm-hmm. And I'm in Chicago, but my car keys and everything, my car's at the airport, which is an hour away from home. Yeah. My house keys and everything is all in Phoenix. So I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I'm sitting here. I actually had to wait. They're like, don't worry, Mr. Adams. I'm going to send your baggage. We'll get it there on the next flight. It'll be about 5 or 6 hours, though. So I had to wait at the airport for 5 or 6 hours. Just me and this Ferrigno trophy and a Starbucks coffee.
Sitting there with your buddy there.
I had my buddy with me. But yeah, good memories for sure. Unforgettable experience.
Andre, I have a question for you before we get too far, because we looked at that picture, from 2014 to today. How old are you right now?
39. I'll be 40 May of 25.
So when we start to get into our upper 30s, or mid to something 40s, it's harder to keep your midsection so tight and small. And to see that, your midsection was equal to what it was when you were in your 20s in these recent photos was pretty impressive to me. Was there anything in particular you did, or is there something that we're doing as athletes or aging just individuals that cause people's midsections to get thicker?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I was a little concerned about it because for you guys that don't know, or maybe haven't followed me for the full journey, I started in men's physique, became an Olympian there, competed there until mid 2016. And then classic physique came out. Super excited about that. So I took a year off, put on a lot of weight over those next few years. I went from, I think when I won the Ferrigno, I was probably 180 to 185 pounds stage weight, fully peaked out. I went from that to 243 pounds in my off season for classic. So it took me about a year to put on that kind of size. And, that alone can definitely cause some elasticity issues when you diet back down to stage weight, especially when you do that season after season after season, you're kind of growing and then shrinking, growing. Yeah. So I did notice, I think the last time I did Legion, because those were my last couple shows. I did Chicago Pro during the pandemic, 2020. And then a couple weeks later, I did Legion Sports, Classic Physique. And I felt like I still probably looked my best, but I was having a lot of trouble even then keeping my waistline as tight as it used to be in men's physique. Mm-hmm. So then take another 4 years off, right? I took a 4-year hiatus. until this year. Ashley Kaltwasser talked me out of coming out of retirement. And I get, the biggest thing was giving myself enough time and then remembering, I call it embracing the suck. You got to remember what it feels like to go to that dark place, push yourself a little bit harder on those low carb days, and really control the diet and just stay consistent for all, for me, it was a 20-week prep, which is long for me. I used to only take, 10 to 12-week preps max because I stayed pretty close to stage condition. But now, I did, my feedback actually was to, they loved the look, they were excited to see me back. Now I think the sport has also elevated, right? So since those days, 10 years ago, I think every division is more competitive because everyone has more base knowledge now, right? Coaches are smarter, athletes are working harder. There's just more information available. So now I can't go back to what I did in 2014. I've got to be better than that.
Right.
And that's the goal going into Tokyo is, the waist trainer. I actually had another episode on Peak Physique about waist trainers. That's something that I did use for many years back then and have kind of brought that back for this prep. Sweat belts, thermo cream. So I love using like Evelyn 4D thermo cream. Sweet Sweat has a good product. And then there's Abs of Steel. Any of those type of thermogenic topical creams underneath a good sweat belt during your cardio. That stuff will definitely help improve the elasticity. And then, for the women, because we get this a lot too, for women that have maybe had kids, right? They lose the elasticity in the waistline. For them, it's like adding some collagen supplements and things like that to improve the, elasticity of the skin.
It seems like, you said you did a 20-week prep versus in the past a 10 to 12-week prep. And I feel like when we see the masters guys, they're lean enough, they have the conditioning, but they have that thick waist. And to me, I think what might be happening is they get lean enough, but to get that small waist, you've got to get that lean and then just keep going and keep grinding away at what might be intramuscular fat.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. And one way that you can check that too is actually on like an in-body scan. And I believe even DEXA scans might do it. You can look at your visceral fat. So that's going to be the fat that wraps around the internal organs, belly fat. Managing your cortisol, right? Cortisol stores visceral belly fat. So if we can make sure that circadian rhythm is good, we're managing overnight cortisol levels, keep them nice and low. We're not storing abdominal fat. And then just what you said, once you get pretty close to stage lean, you got to give yourself enough time and just really continue to prep and diet and hold your look. And you will come in tighter. Also, I think a lot of guys over the years tend to stop training the core. Everyone, there's like this notion for whatever reason, misconception in the industry that if I train my core, my waist is going to get thick.
Right.
Now, if look at Ronnie, right?
Right. Yeah.
Lifting 800 5 weeks out from Olympia, but he still had an insane X-frame. So, you can make the lats bigger, you can make the quads bigger, the glutes bigger to make sure that you still give the illusion of a nice V taper and X-frame. But then training like the transverse abdominals, you'll hear me talk a lot about that. That's what helps pull the waistline in and shrink it up. And then the posing, right? So a lot of guys lose that mind muscle connection to pose and pull inward through the core, the transverse abdominals. So I think just making sure that you have good neuromuscular control of that transverse abdominals will help shrink up that waistline. Yeah.
It's good stuff, man. Especially for us, masters are becoming such a big thing lately, and
yeah,
we all want to, maybe our faces get older, but we can keep our body looking like we're in our 20s if you do it right.
That's right. So it's crazy, to see how the sport has evolved and grown. And some guys and girls choose to stay in the sport as athletes, while others like ourselves, take maybe different paths. I took a totally different path and then came back as an athlete just to lead by example and show some of the athletes I coach that, hey, no matter how busy you are, no matter what your age is, you can still do this and do it at a high level if you're disciplined and mentally tough enough to push yourself to that level, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Never announce your retirement.
Yeah, exactly. Before, my close friends and stuff would ask me a year or two ago, like, are you done competing? And I never would say I'm retired. I would say I'm taking a break.
Right.
Because we're never done. My motto is ain't done yet, right?
Right.
Still improving. So, guys, if you're just joining us, this is the Peak Physique Podcast. We are talking about all this good stuff in the industry with special guest Chris Minnis of Center Podium. And you know what? We're diving in on the evolution of the sport of bodybuilding. And Chris, you and I think, are the perfect people to kind of segue this conversation into transitioning from that bodybuilder, that competitive athlete, to a successful, sustainable career in fitness. Mm-hmm. You know, for your pathway, let's talk about you first, because you also, for people that don't know, Chris was actually a very good bodybuilder as well, but you decided to go more full-time into promoting and entrepreneurship. Walk us through what that mindset was like, and then what parallels are there from the confidence, self-discipline, self-efficacy, all the things you had to do as a competitor. How has that helped you as a promoter?
Yeah, I mean, so my transition was kind of forced upon me, I could say. My goal was I wanted to turn pro like every other bodybuilder, you know. And during that time, at 2011 to 2016 is when I was competing the most. The quality was super good. I mean, those were the days when sometimes I look back at my pictures and I see like I can't remember names right now, but I was up against a lot of people we all know. You know, Cali Muscle was one, I think. And who did I see? Brandon. Anyway, I don't want to drop names, but you know, there's some really good people out there, and it was very, very competitive. And it's a little bit more diluted now, I think, because there's all the divisions. But back to what I wanted to do was I was trying to, you know, go pro, and I was up to 260, pretty solid 260, and I always had this kind of nagging injury in my back. And then one day I was just doing a little 500-pound deadlift warm up, which back then was a warm up for me, and I had a disc explode. The disc exploded. Like any idiot bodybuilder that I was, I finished my workout and went home and was kind of wondering why, you know, my legs are going numb, why my junk's going numb, you know, and eventually I ended up in the emergency room, and they said, bro, we need to go in there right now. And it was like 7 p.m. and surgery started at 10 p.m. and it was 7 hours long because they were very concerned I was going to be paralyzed.
Yep, the fragments, right? They can sever the nerve endings in the spinal cord.
Yeah. What was happening, because the disc exploded, there was, as you said, fragments, especially from the pressure of having 500 pounds on it.
Yep.
Kind of burst up and down my spinal column and was causing, you know, was putting pressure on all of those nerves that run down to your legs and things along those lines. So that needed to be removed right away. And that was a big, like, you know, kick in the nuts, you know, as far as, you know, trying to continue to compete. And also around that same time, I was accumulating more bodybuilding shows. You know, I started with Tahoe and then the Ferrigno, and then I got the West Coast Classic and the Motherload. So all of a sudden, all these shows are popping up, and I'm having less time to dedicate to competing. And I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. I'm either all in on the shows or all in on bodybuilding. And if I can't do both, you know, obviously the one that's going to pay the bills has to win, you know. And, you know, like you said, or like we said earlier, we never say we're retired, you know, you never know. You know, I do try to keep a look. I think that's important as a promoter, to look like you know the sport, look like you know what you're doing, and actually be able to provide advice, or at least ask the right questions. So that was kind of the evolution of it. And I've enjoyed it. You know, I've enjoyed I always brag. I always say, you know, I get to be on stage without having to diet. You know, I still get to be out there and taking the crowd, which I always enjoyed, but without maybe some of the suffering that goes along with it. But I can appreciate the suffering. And I think that's maybe what, you know, differentiates our shows. My entire team is competitors, and they understand when somebody comes in and their energy is down, or maybe they're, you know, it's not their greatest day in the world, or they're, you know, they're not as nice as they might be, but to provide that bit of understanding, that love, and that support that may change that whole experience. And that's important to us, from check-ins all the way to being on stage, that we're really there. We understand the experience, and we've been there to support all the way through.
Yeah, I love that mindset. You know, it's definitely true. You've been there, you've walked in those shoes, you know what the experience is like as a competitor. So it's going to help you relate to what your team's going through, what the athlete's experience needs to be, and what things are important to them. You know, for me, mine actually started probably as a fitness enthusiast, I would call it, just a fan of everything, right? Mm-hmm. Any competitive sport growing up. You know, my pops was actually my inspiration, and he was such a phenomenal athlete in anything, especially weightlifting, like bodybuilding type of, different things. But he inspired me to put mine on record, right? Where my dad was a little bit more shy or reserved in terms of like, you know, getting on stage or anything like that. It wasn't his jam. But you put him, you know, in the local gym or the home gym with a bunch of people around, and the guy is an animal. So for me, it was like, let's do this, but I want to do mine and get mine in the record book. So, you know, I started as a fitness enthusiast, trained a lifetime, really. So right now, 27 years. It's been since my 12th birthday. I've been training 5 days a week or more. And, you know, when I started competing in bodybuilding specifically, it was a really fast track, you know, trajectory. I want to say 5 or 6 months I turned pro in Physique. Wow. Physique had just come out. Didn't know what the heck I was doing. Found a coach like towards the end of that. And then less than a year later, you know, won the Ferrigno and qualified for Olympia. And that was a very pivotal moment for me. Now, I wasn't thinking about coaching at that time. I actually had got my NASM master's and, you know, CPT, performance enhancement specialist, fitness nutrition specialist, weight loss specialist. But I was doing those for self-enlightenment. I was trying to be a better athlete. I wasn't doing it thinking, hey, 10 years from now, I'm going to own a gym, a nutrition store, and coach a bunch of people. I was just like, all right, student of the game, I'm a sponge. I'm going to absorb all this knowledge from, you know, coaches, from the industry, from my peers, and then obviously more formal education like NASM. And then I would say probably late 20-teens. So we're talking like kind of 2018, 19, you know, I was very successful in my professional career and making a lot of money, kind of climbed that corporate ladder from mechanical engineer to senior product manager to an executive level. And then realized around then, I don't think this is for me. I think I want to go full-time in fitness. And I was kind of stuck in that gray area for probably a solid 3 years, not really having a clear path on how can I make sustainable income from fitness. I'm an athlete, and everyone knows me as an athlete, but do they know me as a coach? And, you know, you know, do I have the skill set and the business acumen and things to, you know, run a gym or anything else? And then it, you know, slowly just came together over those next few years. I started taking small steps, building out Team Adams Prep, which we've now scaled to a pretty significant international team, right, with athletes from novice to Olympians. And then 2.5 years ago, acquired a brick and mortar gym, which we've scaled successfully. And then last year, we launched our nutrition store, which is Capsule Corp Nutrition. And now it's just been like accelerated growth, you know. So that's the hard transition, though, is to take the athlete hat off, which you were forced to due to an injury. Mine was once I quit my very successful corporate job, right, as a dad and husband and all these things, I was forced to do it because it's like, all right, there is no plan B. We're going to make sure fitness works and it pays the bills somehow. And then you just start the grind. And, you know, it's been a pleasure watching your journey because I've seen you scale. How many shows do you guys have now at Center Podium?
I think we're 11 or 12, something like that. Yeah.
You're a busy guy too, busy guy. And they're international too, right? So we've got 2 overseas. Kazakhstan and
Kazakhstan. Yep.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that one soon because as you and I know, we got something special going on out there. But
going on there. And I want to add to I want to build on what you just said about you know, making that transition from athlete to business person. And I think it's something every athlete should think about way early in their career. You know, every step you're taking, you should be thinking 4 steps ahead. Is this going to contribute to my goal down the road? Because you don't want to be in a place, say you've won the Olympia, and we've all seen people who've won the Olympia and then they've retired and they don't have anything.
Yep.
So you've got to be a planner. That's one thing that planning bodybuilding shows has done for my mindset is I plan everything. I'm always several steps ahead. And I've had the opportunity to help some athletes, and I try to create those platforms when I can to help athletes make that transition. You know, good examples, my partner in Florida is Dexter Jackson. You know, so he won the Olympia, he retired, and we have that show together. That helps him. And I'm also advising him on other projects, advising or helping, supporting whatever it is that he's working on. And we've done that with several athletes, and hope for that opportunity in the future. It's you know, to be more and more. One of the reasons that I call the Legion, because it's not about one person, it's about a group. It's all of us. We are the Legion. We are all working together to support each other and create a bigger opportunity, a bigger industry for everyone to thrive in.
Absolutely. It's something that everyone needs to be thinking about because, the physique outcomes that you guys see on stage, that's cool. That's awesome. Obviously, we all want to win trophies, do all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, what's your higher purpose and how are you reaching that self-actualization, right? And it's not just our physique. It's also our health, our mental wellness. It's going to be our financial stability, all these things that are important and far beyond the stage. Like you said, thinking, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, am I going to be in a position to enjoy life without having to be on stage and dieting and all this stuff at 50 years old, right? Nobody wants
an end to it.
Yeah. Let's wrap that conversation with what advice we might have for aspiring fitness professionals looking to maybe make that transition in their career. I know there's countless people, a lot of colleagues of ours that are kind of stuck in that gray area. Like one or two things that maybe they could do to start exploring that pathway.
I think to remember that you need to set whatever that goal is going to be well before you retire and start feeding that goal early. That's number one. Realize that it's not going to happen overnight. And this is a mistake I've seen working with some big names. They think that their name is going to instantly translate to a ton of money. And if you may have 4 million followers on Instagram, but if you don't have the right product, you don't have the right infrastructure, that is not going to convert into revenue for you. And you have to put your ego aside and realize that you're still going to have to grind. It's not a switch that you're going to flip and all of a sudden you're making millions. You have to create the infrastructure. You can have the best advertising in the world, the most followers in the world, but if you don't have the product and the system, you're not going to be able to monetize it.
Yeah. So monetization, that's super important in today's day and age. And like you said, a good starting point is obviously build up the social media and be active there. But like you said, really having that basic understanding, that business acumen, that you've got to also surround yourself with knowledgeable people that are going to help you promote, market your services, build out the framework for whatever your brand is going to be. And then if you're unsure what that is, think about what you're most passionate about, find a need or demand for it in the industry, and then go, try to go after that, pursue that channel. And if you're not sure at the end of the day, you can always reach out to me and Chris, because you know what, we do it for a living and we can help put our heads together and guide you. So, all right, guys, if you're just joining us, again, this is the Peak Physique Podcast. We've got my good friend, Chris Minnis of Center Podium on. And Chris, we're going to talk about for novice athletes, let's walk them through. So this is people that have never competed. Let's walk them through what to expect at their very first NPC show. I'm thinking what that overall experience might be like, preparation, the day of, judging, and then, even like the backstage experience, pump room, like what should they expect at their first show?
I think one of the more important things to recognize these days is not every NPC show is the same. There's no business model. We're all individual promoters and we all have different ideas as to what is going to be the best show, what is going to be the best experience for our athletes. And I would start by looking at the shows and seeing how many people are competing in it with a particular promoter, or look at the pictures of the stages and look at the video and look at the live stream if they have it, and start to put together where you think you're going to have the best experience, because there really is a vast spectrum of experience that you can have. So pick out your date and pick out the promoter that's going to serve you best. And that's going to impact your entire show, because you don't want to be working so hard and spending all this money, and be prepared to work hard and spend a lot of money as you prepare for the show. But you don't want to do that and then have, be in the back of a convention or a conference room at a hotel when you could be in a beautiful theater somewhere, or you can be in a beautiful destination. So that's the first thing to consider. I think people, especially in their first shows, are very self-conscious, and to realize that everybody's feeling that way, that just worry about yourself. Don't worry about what people are thinking. You don't get judged till you're on stage, and remember that. Just go in, focus on yourself. Don't worry about what you're wearing to check-ins. Don't worry about your social media. Don't be looking at other people's social media. That's going to get in your head, because believe me, they structured it. They squeezed and pulled and did all of the things to make themselves look perfect.
Yep.
And then you see them in real life. You're like, your waist is a lot wider than it was on your Instagram because you were squeezing, so just definitely just be in yourself and just focus on being your own, your own best product. I recommend always look at these websites, get as much information as you possibly can. We take a lot of pride in over communicating with our emails and all the details we have on our website. So you want to know all these things, all these questions, venue, times, check-ins, all these things should be answered on that website. And so take that time. And I say that because we have people like, they call us and go, so where's the show? I'm like, bro, it's right on the website. What time should I be there? I'm like, dude, so take that time, get as much information as you possibly can. And these days there is so much, you've got the resources that you offer. On my website, I have an entire contest prep guide that starts with explaining the difference between the federations, which when I started, I didn't know the difference between the OCB and the NPC. And I didn't know the NPC was the only way to get to the Mr. Olympia. Things along those lines that seem very elementary to you and I are not common knowledge when you're starting out. So do your work, do your research, and then you'll be prepared when you get there on show day.
Yeah, and you hit on something too that I'll expand on in terms of picking the shows. So that's a really good mentality to have, is also asking other athletes that have competed in those various platforms, various theaters and shows, what their experience was like. Mm-hmm. Because I can tell you this, if you've never competed before and your very first show is a terrible experience, be it a terrible coaching experience, a terrible promotion experience, it's not going to sit well with you, and it could discourage you from continuing to compete, when in reality, you might be a phenomenal athlete, but you just weren't at the right venue, or you didn't have the right coach, you didn't have the right time. So definitely do your homework, talk to other athletes, look at past photos, videos of the shows, and kind of get a feel for what it was like. And then definitely work with a prep coach, right? So if you guys are trying to do this by yourself, stop. Like, I'll tell you firsthand, I started by myself, but back then there weren't a lot of coaches either. So now it's probably the opposite, right, Chris? It's like saturated now. There's so many coaches, but same thing. Do your homework. Find a knowledgeable prep coach. A lot of people like to have one in person. If you're more experienced, maybe, remote is better for you. But the coach is also going to help guide you into the proper show for you, the size of the show, the difficulty of the show, the timing of the show. And when, myself as a coach, as I'm mapping out an athlete's season, we're looking at how to get from point A to point B, how much time we're going to need to get stage lean, make the adjustments, balance their proportions, etc. Financially, does this time frame even work for them? And then that kind of sets the season, right? So let's say it's January 1, we've mapped out 3 or 4 shows that could potentially work for this athlete. And now you've got a block of time. Let's just say that falls between like July and September, right? That's going to be their kind of on season. From a coaching standpoint, NASM standpoint, we would call that their macro or their meso cycles that we would start to build out, mm-hmm. and take them through their training and dieting phases to peak them out for the show. And then to your point, then you look at those, all right, I've got 3 or 4 shows kind of in my area that work for me, where I don't have to travel super far. Or if you're a pro, you're probably still going to have to travel, just because it's a little more limited on the pro stage. But then, you can start to narrow down 2 or 3 shows that work for you and base it off of that. The other thing for novice athletes, I feel like sometimes people get locked into a specific show, and, maybe they didn't start until 10 weeks out, and they're like, hey, this show is only an hour away from me. I want to do this show. But they might really need 18 weeks, 20 weeks of prep. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of times people add unnecessary stress because they lock themselves into a specific show date, when really you almost need to let your body and with your coach's guidance dictate when your body is ready to compete. Mm-hmm. Instead of just arbitrarily picking a date because it's convenient and then stepping on stage at 80% of your potential. Right. Right. So like right now is the time to be thinking about 2025. Most of our athletes, we're already looking at spring 25. Here's the few shows that we're going to line up. We're finishing off improvement phases. We need X amount of time to get you in shape for next year.
Yeah. One thing I like to chat about a lot, because there's there's kind of this bodybuilding mythology out there, and that's politics. And people will I see this with coaches a lot, acting as if they have this special relationship with the promoter or a special relationship with the judge. And if a coach is giving you that impression, run the other way, because they don't have a special relationship with the promoter. They don't have a special relationship with a judge. And I've even felt coaches trying that crap with me, and they're getting nothing from me, and I don't care if you bring 50 people to my show. We're going to judge what's on stage. I don't even watch the shows myself. I don't know who my overall winners are. I bring in my judges from all over the country, and they are there to do one thing, and that's judge what is on stage. You're not trying to get in front of a specific judge. It doesn't matter. You're not trying to impress a certain promoter. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter what team you're on, if it's a big team or little team. What matters is that you look the best that day. So focus on that. Don't worry about anything else. Don't let that stuff get in your head. Just focus on being the best. All these little tricks, all these little politics things, ass kissing, the tag and whatever, doesn't work. Just be the best that day. It's that simple.
Yeah, and I can personally attest to that, guys. So if you're ever wondering about it, I can say I have turned pro. I have won pro shows. I've placed top 3 and top 5 many, many times. And I have qualified for Olympia, one of the first 10 ever invited to the Arnold Pro Classic Men's Physique stage. And I had no sponsors back then, not a single one. Right. I wasn't really on a, significant team of any sort. So you can do that, right? To Chris's point, you just got to be the best. And the interesting thing is, in the industry, when people don't do well, then they blame it on politics.
100%.
But when they do great, you don't hear that come up very much. It's like, oh, well, I won because of politics. No, I won because I'm the best today. But when you lose, there's got to be an excuse to justify and rationalize it. So,
and I think for both of us as athletes, and now I'm as a promoter, all we ever want is just to be judged by how we look. Let's just be judge what's on stage. Judge me, give me first if I'm the best. Don't give me first if I'm not. And that's how we do it at our shows, and that's how it'll always be.
Absolutely. Love it. So, we're going to segue into a couple of things that we'll leave our audience with today, Chris. I want to make sure that we talk a little bit more about Legion Sports Festival. It's going down September 28th and 29th in Reno, Nevada. We'll give them a quick overview on divisions, pro and amateur. Obviously, there's a awesome fitness expo. There's a live stream. Tell us a bit about what sets Legion Sports apart from your average pro amateur show.
Well, the Legion actually includes 11 sports. So that's the first big thing. It's much more like the Arnold Sports Fest in Ohio, where we have all these fantastic sports. For one, we have 15 IFBB Pro divisions. So 8 open divisions and then 7 masters divisions, an entire NPC show. But then when you're bringing the friends and the family, there's so much to do. We're going to have 150 vendors there. Armored Combat, that is where they dress up like knights, like in actual armor, and beat the silly crap out of each other. I told them, you guys need your own EMT. You can't use our EMT. You guys are going to hurt too much.
Yep.
Powerlifting, strongman, weightlifting, CrossFit, arm wrestling, roller derby. It's just, there's so much to see. Seminars going on. I don't know if I told you, Ashley's coming up. Ashley Kaltwasser is coming up.
Yep.
I got Danny Hester, Wendy Fortino. I'll get my list over here. Hidetata, he just committed to coming. Dennis Wolf. I'll get my cheat sheet over here. Dexter Jackson, Sergio Oliva. It's going to be quite a bit of awesomeness happening. A lot of information. The vibe too at that show, like I said, the Legion is all about all of us. So it's like going to Gold's Gym Venice and just kicking it. And whether you're an aspiring pro or you're Mr. Olympia, everybody's just training together. Hey, you on that machine kind of vibe. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And you feel that when you're there. You've been there, right?
Oh, I love it. And for you guys that haven't been to Legion or, followed it for very long, I think, Chris, they can actually go back to right on centerpodium.com. I think they can go back on the Center Podium TV and view some of the past live streams. Last year, actually, I think 2 out of the 3 last years, we participated in some of the seminars. Mm-hmm. I did one last year with myself, Cass, right? We had the judges with, I believe, Tarek and Steve. Mm-hmm. And we gave some really awesome information out, had ton of questions and engagement from the audience, which was, I love it, right? It's educating, but it's also making us think critically about some of the questions that athletes and the fans have. And then the year prior, that's the Glutey and the Beast.
Right. That's where it all started, right?
Yeah, that's where it all started, right? We did the live workshop with myself and Ashley, and here we are still traveling the world doing the Glutey and the Beast seminars. So definitely go back, check that out. You guys that want more information, go to centerpodium.com. And then if they are unable to travel and they're interested in the live stream, do they just access that as well through the website?
Yeah, you can. There's links from the website. We have an app, tv.centerpodium.com, or you can go to the the Apple Store or the Android Store or Roku. Download the app. It has all of our live streams. We live stream other promoters' shows, so we probably 40 to 50 live streams a year on there. So almost every weekend you can tune in and watch bodybuilding. A ton of original content, and then we have archives going back all the way to 2011. So if you're thinking about doing one of our shows, you can go check it out and watch a show and see how the judges did everything. And it's a great way to study for when you compete. You understand how the call outs work, how they're judging, what the poses are, things along those lines. So definitely check that out. You can watch future shows or everything we've ever produced and a lot more in the past.
I like that idea, Chris, of going back and looking at maybe last year's call outs or prejudging. And it's something that I actually advise my athletes to do quite often is, to your point, go back and watch the videos. And, if it's just an arbitrary video, go to the Olympia or Arnold if you're just not sure. Look up prejudging, follow along to the judges' calls. If they're going through mandatories, they're going through quarter turns and poses. Follow along, and that's what you should be using as a guide to help practice your posing and get a feel for what it's like on stage. So definitely.
I love about what you just said too, is a lot of athletes are surprised how difficult posing is and how long they have to hold these poses. So like you're a bodybuilder, put Steve Weinberger on and then follow those poses. And then 20 minutes later, you're going to be bleeding sweat and totally gassed. Maybe get harder, maybe get flatter, but do that because you're not in your bathroom anymore posing for 30 seconds. You're on stage, no mirror for 20 minutes. You want to be able to practice that. So, because if you're not, the judges will see, oh, he's gassed. He didn't do the work he needed to do. Clearly he's just in front of his bathroom mirror. His only good shot is the front shot. He's not seeing his back, they're pinching or some, so that's awesome advice to listen to it. Just put it on and listen, follow those call outs and see if you can keep up.
Absolutely. Don't take the posing lightly, guys. Let me tell you. For me, being out of men's physique for 8 years and coming back to the pro men's physique stage in Tokyo, I had to remember how hard it was. I took it for granted because, I've been classic for so long and I'm used to practicing holding my classic mandatories and quarters. I forgot how hard it is to actually hold a men's physique front pose, especially when you're standing on the diagonal for 35 minutes.
Right.
So by the time you get to call outs, you're fried,
Yeah, you can't sit there and let your stomach loose, even if you're on the diagonal.
That's right. You still got to hold that
looking back there too.
Yeah. So good tips there. And, the last big thing we'll leave them with today, Chris, is going to be something I'm really excited about. You, myself, Ashley, we got our judges panel, which is phenomenal. We've got the Kazakhstan Invictus seminar and show going down. And I believe the dates, if I remember correctly, November 1st and November 2nd.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Tell us about what to expect there. And then, we'll give them an overview as well about the seminar that we're going to be providing.
Yeah. So this whole market, the Kazakhstan market, is blown up. We have an incredible partner there, Invictus Gym. When I met them, I think they had 10 gyms. Now they're up to 50. So they're just taking over the entire country, the region. They're moving into the United States with some projects. So they've been really the catalyst behind that. They invited me there to produce these events because they saw what we had been doing in Russia and, of course, what we do in the United States. This coming event is a pro qualifier. We're giving away 8 pro cards, but we also have 4 pro divisions. So what that means is you can potentially compete, win your pro card, and then compete as a pro the same day and qualify for the Olympia the same day. So you can imagine that you start your day as an amateur, you end your day qualified for the Olympia. And so in those pro divisions, we have bikini, men's physique, classic physique, and figure.
Yep.
And the other thing that we do is everybody wins their pro card. we cover their travel so they can compete at the Legion Sports Fest the following year. So even if you don't necessarily get your ticket to the Olympia that day, you can count on getting a ticket to the Legion Sports Fest the following year. And last year we actually had 4 athletes come out from Russia and Kazakhstan, and they did phenomenally well. Our classic physique guy got second place up against Rough Diesel and Logan Franklin. And then he did his next show, he qualified for the Olympia. Totally, like their mindset there is amazing, because he's now this national hero. You know, the bodybuilding industry is so alive in places like this. And when you go and compete there, you're going to have a blast. You know, the flight's a little pricey to get out there, but once you're there, dude, an Uber ride's like $1.50. Like it costs nothing once you're there. The food's amazing. And the venue, the experience it's all first class.
Well, I'm excited to be a part of it. Very grateful, again, to not only come out for the seminar, but to have a reason to stay in shape a little bit longer this year. Right. So, you know, I was looking for an excuse to stay in shape. This month was really busy. Had a lot of business stuff to knock out back home, but it also gave me just enough time where I'm excited to come in and, you know, hopefully bring my best ever to the show, but definitely offer some really insightful tips for the seminar. So, you know, you guys that are going to be there in the area for the seminar, things that you can expect will be training and nutrition strategies. We're going to talk about some posing, do some demonstrations with the pros. Obviously, the judges will be there so they can help do some Q&A, talk about the different criteria for each division, and just really what to expect at the show. Yep. So we're, you know, excited to be a part of it. And again, it's a long flight. So I like challenges too. So Ashley and I, you know, we've been talking about how we're going to manage, you know, our water retention and our food and meals and supplementation, everything we need going into it. You know, it's a little bit different challenge than what we just did. We did Hawaii, so US to Hawaii to Tokyo, which was interesting. But now this one, right? Kazakhstan this is big. Yeah, this is big. And you know, with the flights being a bit limited with the situation in Russia currently, it does make traveling into the show as a competitor a little bit more challenging to manage your meals. But I like those challenges. So, you know,
exactly. You learn how your body responds to all of those things. And I really want to stress, because, you know, you're going to be humble, but to have you and Ashley there is huge. You know, I don't know that an Olympia champion has ever even set foot in that country, probably, but not that I know of. But to have 3-time Miss Bikini Olympia there, to have someone of your stature, an Olympian, a master trainer, there is huge, and an incredible opportunity for everyone who's going to compete. And we get people from around the world. You know, we're getting of course, our Kazakh friends, and tons of our friends from Russia, you know, dating back to when I was producing shows there. Lots of Iranians, Americans, you name it. I think we had a Korean champion last year. So it's a mix of international athletes, and them just being in the same room as you guys is going to feel amazing to them. And I'm so looking forward to seeing their reception to you guys and the information you're going to provide them.
Oh, it's wonderful. And I know Ashley's just as excited as I am. So we're ready to come out and meet everyone, do some networking, and really just have a blast. Yeah. So shout out to all of our soon-to-be friends out in Kazakhstan and, you know, the Invictus gyms and everything. We're looking forward to meeting you guys very soon. So what are we now, Chris? About just inside 8 weeks, I think. So
yeah, we're just inside 8 weeks. Exactly. Yep. So
yeah. Awesome.
About a week and a half to our first price deadline for you guys who want to sign up and save some money. So make sure you get registered quick.
Yeah. So hop online. You can, same thing, go to centerpodium.com, get the info, get signed up. And guys, the last thing, since we're about out of time here, I'll leave you with, and Chris, I think I've invited you to this as well. December 7th, for you guys that are looking for a fun way to cap off the end of the year, we've got our Legend Seminar going down in Kenosha, Wisconsin, with 8-time Mr. Olympia champ, Ronnie Coleman, the GOAT. Nice. We've got the Queen of Bodybuilding, 4-time reigning Miss Olympia champ, Andrea Shaw. Of course, myself, just got Cass Gillis, so Miss International Wellness Olympian, and so many more. Ashley might make it out, depending if she's competing that weekend or not. And then we got a ton of sponsors that I know everyone's going to be excited to meet in person. So we've got right now Young LA, First Form, we got Dialed Moods, Grindstone Blends, Maw Meals, some of my medical partners, Dr. Indigo Vasquez, and we got Drew & Co., which is local here by me. So a lot of opportunity for networking. Angel Competition Bikini, can't forget them. Obviously, we're going to be collabing on a fashion show as well. So shout out to, you know, Kara over there with that team. But it's going to be a blast. So, you know, Chris, if you're looking for something to do in December, I know for you, it's like, let me take a month and just breathe.
I tend to go into hibernation. That might be fun. That could be a really good time.
Yeah, so definitely for you guys that are interested, we've actually got a promo right now too. It's CASS, so KASS 10 at www.andreadamsofficial.com. You guys can save 10% off. Get registered for the golden tickets. You'll be able to attend the entire seminar. Lunch is provided. We got a fashion show. But then the fun part, there's only 40 golden tickets. So, Chris, let's tell them how unique this is going to be. They get to train with not just myself, but with all of our Olympians. So Ronnie's going to be training, Drea is going to be training, Cass is going to be training, and we're going to lock down the gym. And everyone, it's just going to be an open workout with the Olympians. So I'm excited for it. Like I would pay for it, and it's my event.
Those are going to be these photos you never forget. The opportunity to do some training with Ronnie Coleman. That's the kind of stuff you frame and hang on the wall.
That's right. Hey, have Ronnie behind you, hyping you up.
Yeah, buddy.
So I'm excited. But Chris, it's been a blast having you on. As always, good to catch up with you, brother. And I'm looking forward to, I don't know if I'll catch you this year at Legion because my schedule is so crazy. This might be, if I don't make it, this will probably be the first year in quite a few years that I haven't gone to Legion. But I'll definitely be watching the live stream. And of course, you and I will connect out in Kazakhstan in just under 8 weeks here.
Yeah, we'll be seeing you in Kazakhstan. That makes up for the Legion. Don't worry.
That's right. All right, brother. Well, hey, good to see you as always. You guys know where to find Chris. You can also find him on Instagram under Center Podium. You can go to Legion Sports. And Chris, I think Kazakhstan and Invictus have their own Instagram page. Right?
Yeah, NPC Worldwide KZ. We keep our updates there as well. Yep.
Yeah, so make sure to give them a follow. And then go to centerpodium.com for all your other show and contest information needs. And you guys know where to find me, of course. It's at Andre Adams _official on both Instagram and YouTube. You can email me at trainingbydre@gmail.com or visit the website at andreadamsofficial.com. That's all we've got for you guys this week. We will see you next time on another episode of the Peak Physique Podcast.